Welcome back to Healing with Krista. Today we are on episode 6, Letting Go of Who I Used to Be. Today's episode is personal, and I want to talk about letting go, but not in the way people usually think about. I'm not talking about relationships or a job or anger. I'm talking about letting go of the old version of me, the version of me that existed before grief, before loss changed everything. There's a version of ourselves we sometimes spend years trying to get back to. The happier version, the lighter version, the more energized version. And for a long time, I thought healing meant finding my way back to who I was. But over the years, I realized that I will never be that person. I'm never going to go back to being who that was. When I lost my mother, something inside of me left with her. And I always tell everyone, anyone that I talk to, it felt like she took half of my energy, half of my spirit, half of me, and she took it with her when she passed away. Because I remember after her funeral just feeling so exhausted from running around trying to get everything in order. And I remember just thinking I just need some rest. And then I realized I wasn't just physically tired, it was just my spirit. It's the kind of tired that sleep doesn't fix. The kind where you wake up exhausted. It's like you move through life just being exhausted all the time. And you can't really explain why you're tired or why you feel the way you feel. And people around you might not even notice because grief becomes invisible after a while. It becomes who you are, it becomes your personality. And there isn't really anything that you can do to change that because you're going through this cycle or this way of life. And I kept thinking, why can't I just bounce back? Why can't I just snap my finger and get back to who I was, where I was? Why can't I just be who I used to be? But grief changes your whole nervous system. It changes your spirit. It changes the way you experience life, your perspective. It's like you're looking at life through a different lens. And that's how I was feeling after losing my mom. And then losing my brother 5 years ago in 2021. Losing my brother to suicide. It honestly just took what was left. And it felt like whatever energy that I had been holding on to, it just disappeared. And I went through the same thing that I went through with my mom. But this time around, I was even more exhausted. It just felt like I couldn't do it anymore. And for the last 5 years, I just been getting used to the new way of life. And after my brother, I just stopped recognizing myself. I wasn't the same person that I was before. The things that I used to love became harder to do. The motivation wasn't there. The excitement wasn't there. Even simple things started feeling heavy. And one of the hardest parts about grief is that people expect you to continue being the same person afterwards. But how could you? How can anyone? How could anyone remain unchanged after losing people who are part of their soul, part of their life journey? Someone that you spoke to on the daily basis. How can you just move on from that? You can't. And one thing about me, what keeps me going is my boys. They give me that extra boost that I need every day. The motivation to want to continue with my education, that want to continue making a difference in my life and their life. They give me a little hope, excitement, and it's always something to look forward to all the time. And I think one thing people don't talk about enough is sometimes after loss, you grieve yourself too. You grieve the version of you that laughed easier, trusted easier, had more energy, someone that was more excited. And for a long time, I try to get back to that. I kept trying to say, like, I'm going to get out of this. I'm going to get better. I just need to start doing this. I need to change that. You know, making these excuses for myself. But healing finally began when I stopped asking, how do I get back to that? And I started asking, who am I now? And that question changed everything. It makes you look at life differently, accepting the new you. I'm learning that maybe healing isn't returning to who we were before grief and loss. Maybe healing is learning how to live honestly after it, accepting that this is the new me, the quieter me, the more intentional me, the version of me that protects my energy differently now, the version that only deeply cares about what truly matters: my family, especially my children, my siblings, my inner circle, but most importantly, my peace, my mental. And honestly, everything else feels irrelevant now. Not because I'm a cold person, not because I don't care, but because after you lose somebody, after you go through all these changes in your life, it changes your perspective, it changes your priorities, it changes everything. You stop wasting energy on meaningless things. You stop chasing validation. You stop forcing connections with people. Loss teaches you what actually matters. And you know what? That's okay. You're not broken. I think part of letting go is accepting that survival changes people. And maybe we don't talk enough about how exhausting grief is, because it is. Grief is fucking exhausting. People see grief as someone who's always sad, but grief is also fatigue, brain fog, disconnection, isolation. Grief looks like becoming quieter, just becoming silent, closed off. Sometimes grief looks like protecting your peace. And I used to always judge myself for that: the disconnection, the isolation. I used to always ask myself, why am I so distant now? Why am I so isolated? Why don't I like going out and doing things anymore as I used to? But now I understand. My spirit has been rebuilding itself from the moment that I lost my mom. And I lost my mom in 2015 and my brother back in 2021. I've been trying to process and learn this new way of life. I'm trying to understand myself while also trying to be okay, grieving the old version of me before grief, because I'm never going to get back to that person. I'm not, never going to be that motivated, happy, person. It's never going to happen. I try to get back to there and I just realize this is who I am. And that's okay. The people that are in your circle right now are going to love you and support you and be there for you. And those are the only people that you need. You don't need anybody else. You don't need to force connections. Love the people that want to be in your life. Love the people that take the effort and the time to be around you, be around your kids. Take that in and hold on to them tightly because not a lot of us have that. Not a lot of us come from a big family, the good homes. So if you do, take advantage of it, please. Well, for the sake of your mental, if they're bringing you peace and bringing you happiness and trying to encourage you, let them. But anything else, ignore it. It's irrelevant. But if you're listening right now and if you feel disconnected from the person you used to be, I want you to know you're not failing because grief and loss changed you. Loss changes people. And the goal isn't becoming who you were before. The goal is learning how to love who you are now. There's wisdom in this version of you. There's softness and awareness and resilience here too. You got to learn how to give yourself some grace. You got to learn to be patient with yourself. Meditate. And right now, I want you to take a deep breath with me and ask yourself, am I exhausting myself trying to return to the old version of me? And what if I stop fighting who grief has made me? What if this quieter version of me deserves love too? You do not need to earn rest. You do not need to apologize for changing. You do not need to explain your healing journey to anyone. And if you do, you need to cut them out of your circle because you don't need to explain anything to anybody because this is how you're healing. And that's the only thing that matters is how you're feeling. As I close today's episode, I think letting go sometimes means releasing the pressure to become who we used to be. Some versions of us only exist in certain chapters in life, and that's okay. Reflect back at those chapters, embrace them, love them, remember it in a good way. Share your stories. Never forget that version of you in those chapters. Accept that the old you is gone. And just because you're not that person who you used to be, that doesn't mean you're broken. It means you've lived It means you love deeply. It means you survived loss and grief and you're still going through it. And so, what if this version of you is quieter, softer, soft spoken, silent? That's okay. That means you're protecting your peace, you're protecting yourself. And the only thing that you need in your life are those who want the same for you, that want you to be better, to be happy, to do things that you love. The new version of you is going to be great. You know, you are going to be this new version of yourself, the protective version, the version of you that loves deeply. But you got to remember, you deserve compassion too. You deserve to have someone next to you who's patient with you and who understands. And I just hope that this podcast today really relates to those that are going through a lot, that don't understand their healing journey. But I also just want to tell you guys, be patient with yourself, give yourself some grace, have some compassion. Thank you for sitting with me today. And if you're grieving, not just people, but the version of yourself that existed before loss, I hope you know you are not alone. Healing doesn't always look like becoming brighter again. Sometimes healing looks like becoming softer, slower, more intentional, and that is still healing. Until next time, take care of your spirit and please take care of your mental. Thank you. Good night.